We know Kate's gonna be a little late and Ernie hopes to join us. She's had a family, issue, so, she'll come in at some point. And I don't know about Beth and Robin, but we're a quorum, so.
Robin will be here.
Robin will come, okay, good. And Jen is our note taker. Right?
Got it.
Jen.
We'll see after.
Unknown caller.
So sorry. Silence that.
Wake us all up.
Right, beg your pardon.
Barbara Ward is here because we're gonna spend our highlight of our meeting will be reviewing the Ona Judge mural and taking it through our criteria so that they can prepare for HDC. But there are a lot of, if we have time, I took some of the images that Beth provided for garages around the world and I added to it for us to begin thinking of our Hanover garage. We can start that process. Yes.
I just wanted to add that this past Sunday, my husband and I went to Cambridge, Massachusetts and toured all these murals that are all around Cambridge. I
Yes.
took lots of photos, but it's part research and part fun because we ate lots of food along the way. But there was just amazing murals and some private graffiti alleys that you have to like get someone to unlock and let you in.
Oh, cool.
And but it was some of the graffiti and artful graffiti, deliberate, allowed, permitted. And the murals were just amazing. So,
How did you know about the private graffiti alleys?
well, the backstory is my son in California gave it to this tour to us as a Christmas gift. So I kept thinking, well, Boston, we know Boston, but we finally went down and did the tour and we had a tour guide that brought us. So
nice.
it was actually really cool. So we got these gates, secret gates unlocked and so all this. What a great gift. Yeah.
Yeah, very nice.
Very cool.
Okay, before we forget, we were just conferring. You remember our May date, and I want to make sure everybody has the change for the May date because of the a conflict with the use of the facilities. We change it to May 21st.
Sure.
Okay.
And I know we talked about that, but
Oh.
I'm not sure everyone was here. Alyssa, that was a problem?
Yeah, I'm away.
Okay,
And I don't think I can zoom in, but it's okay.
okay.
I did sign up for notes that month though, so I will change. I think I was on there. Maybe I already changed.
I won't be here either.
You can do the
Okay,
same.
so two
Yeah.
people now. All right, we should.
I'm sorry, can you say the date that it was?
May 21st.
May 21st. I think I have it down.
It would have been the 28th, but there's a conflict. We couldn't use the facilities rooms. Okay. So let's do a vote to accept the February 26 minutes.
So moved.
Second.
Ellen, second by Nancy, all in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Good.
Is it weird that I wasn't here and I moved, that we accept the minutes?
No, that's allowed.
Had them.
It's allowed if you review.
I just realized that I'm the only one who wasn't here and I made the motion.
Roberts allows that.
Okay, thank you.
That's interesting. So a few updates. Hope you've all seen the salt pile photo that's in place now at the end of the hallway. A few of us were there for the March 3rd city council presentation, and I must say Carl was wonderful in his remarks. I was gonna make some notes about those, but he talked about how this was something that he had wanted to do for years, to see one of his kind of iconic photos of Portsmouth in a place where lots of people would be able to see it and engage with it. And I think the council was really taken with it as well. And
Yeah.
Ellen and you were both there, Lenny there as well. So it all in all, it turned out just as we'd hoped it would. And actually, and something for our next meeting to think about, but to let you know, I think partly as a result of that, the city manager has asked if we would curate art for what is called.
It's called the Portsmouth
Portsmouth
Room.
Room, which is the room next door to us as you enter, where people wait to go to city
Main
council.
lobby, you mean?
The lobby,
Mhm.
yeah.
Mm.
So to a rotating exhibit.
Yes,
Oh, fun.
The lobby or
not the lobby, the Portsmouth Room right before you step into city council
Oh, so
chambers.
the
Anteroom for
Yeah.
city
Not the lobby,
chambers.
lobby.
Yeah.
Correct.
With the idea that it would be an occasionally rotating exhibit. We'll need to spend some time thinking about how we want to do this, who we want to do partners, because I think it's a perfect opportunity to partner with Portsmouth Historic Society, potentially the League, certainly the New Hampshire Art Association, so that it's maybe not something that we're only doing on our own, but that we have a role in curating. So, and something I know several of you have experience in doing that kind of exhibit, so something that we should take up at our next meeting to talk
Got it.
about the
It's
process.
exciting.
Do we want to work with any of the local art teachers?
We could do that as well. I think the idea is professional artists. But there are professional artists who,
Go to the library and
Teach
see
and-
Splash.
exactly. Yeah. Then that's a really good idea. Maybe that's one exhibit a year or something like that, Robin, but I think
Yeah.
we should sort of set up some parameters for that maybe at our next meeting. And Sean is going to work on a hanging system, so there's a secure way to do that.
And there's lots of very easily ready ones that won't make any holes in your wall and that are adjustable and.
Yeah, and then have a
They're used
degree
at
of
most of the-
security,
Yeah.
because that's a big concern. of
Yeah.
course. Nothing will be for sale. It's really a promotional.
Great.
The button project, I understand the rec department was enthusiastic about having it at community campus. So, I don't know, next steps on that, Charlie?
I've asked them when they determine when, because they have some construction going on over there right now.
Okay,
When they're ready to give park notice so you can coordinate with the artist, because you talked about kind of
Right.
a
little.
a moving
maybe
ceremony and a
talk,
little
ceremony. Yeah.
I'm trying to think, Nancy, you mentioned, to make it more about the art, less about why it came into existence.
So never having seen it before, that space is the space that's being considered the wall with the granite that's
The chimney, I think, as you enter.
as you enter the main entrance as opposed to.
I'm not, they haven't told me
We don't
where,
know yet.
we don't know
I think
yet.
that's what-
The first step was for them to be voluntold
It would be stunning.
that they were.
Yeah, I mean, because when I went recently and the main entrance was closed but then I walked around and it looked like that big hall where it's like a granite base.
Fireplace.
Yeah, right. And it's just, I thought, wow.
Yeah.
Vertical.
Right.
I was there this morning looking at it and I actually wound up, the person who administers the building wound up showing me around. I think she was a little nervous that somebody was walking around by themselves. So there are all these kids, there's all this construction.
Yeah.
Anyway, we looked at all the spaces and that was the only viable space in the entire building because it's way too big. And also in some other places, it could be susceptible to people's hands.
You'd be too
on it.
close to it, yeah.
Yeah, so, but that,
It just-
it really is a dramatic spot for it.
Yeah.
My only question was about the amount of light it would get there and if that's problematic for the artwork and fading. And I don't have the answer to that. The artist would probably know more about that.
But I remember talking to her about that at one time, and she reminded me that we have textiles from like the early, Byzantine
1600s
era.
over at the
That
Jones.
if anything is going to hold up a textile like that would, so.
Some textiles aren't designed to be in the sun and they bite. So that's the only reason I brought it up.
Okay, the annual report to the council, I went on the 17th to give the written report to the council and make a few remarks. The the counselors had a few suggestions, which I thought were interesting, because you remember we had in it some places that we suggested for public art, as well as places for engaging in artists in development. And Counselor Blaylock suggested working with the Portsmouth Housing Authority on the Margison Apartments. You know, because of just the scale of the Margison Apartments. He'd said he'd always hoped that something would go there. So that's something we should think about for the future. Councilor Moreau brought up hoping that there would be more things around City Hall, especially if the police station comes here, that with the 9/11 memorial that's out front and the really quite, when you think of it, dramatic, again, entrance looking up to the hill, that there's potential there. And then Counselor, Assistant Mayor, Joe Kelly brought up really being interested in the rail trail. And as a result of that discussion coming up, we've been contacted by the Seacoast Greenway Alliance, which is managing the rail trail in New Hampshire, to be able to come to one of their meetings and hear from them about their plans. They have also been raising money.
I went to a meeting and they were sharing their wayfinding signs and talking about how to meet DOT requirements in state of New Hampshire and what the city would like. So I think they raised some money to get those type of signs, which is good.
So they are established as a 501c3 nonprofit, a self-standing nonprofit. And I've sent some questions into the deputy manager about our jurisdiction vis-a-vis the rail trail and how that would work. So I'll keep you informed, and let you know when a meeting might be if people would like to go to that, because I think it'd be good for a couple of us to hear about their plans. Let's see. The next thing, the Portsmouth Historic, as you know, we connected them with the inventory that Beth has done. Beth and I met with them, and they did explore the public art archive. It is going to work for the purpose that we talked about. And Beth has been providing them with images in the format that they need for that purpose. So they're going to select 15 or 20 sites. We will create what's called like a sub-collection, so that which is this summer's Cabot Lyford related tour. But that allows us to then, as we have the bandwidth to put in more, to create additional sub-collections so that we can put the whole collection online. So they're essentially pioneering that for us to sort of see how that works. And hopefully it's a strategy that, you know, if we had an intern, I think we thought maybe even a high school student, because really it's about transferring information we already have to formats that they can use. No, I was just talking about it, Beth. I was just telling people about the Portsmouth Historic Society work. And I hope people saw there was a really nice press release done about the inventory.
I
It
did.
was in today's paper and has been on the community newsletter, which is good.
May I ask a clarifying question? So Historic Portsmouth is going to help facilitate creating the online digital map, but they're going to just initially have about 15
or
places
20.
that all 15 to 20 that sort of support their current exhibit.
Exactly.
Of Lyford's, but we'll be able to add the rest of them.
Yeah.
Not immediately, but at a later date.
Well, it's really up to us. I mean, it's really just it's secretarial work. It's like transferring information we already have into the public art archive spreadsheet in the way that they have it set out. I don't know, Beth, if you want to say any more about that.
No, I mean, that's a very good description, so that we need to find somebody to do that, and it might come from that organization, but they weren't sure, they might get a summer intern. I'm happy to give them the information any way they want it, and I did give them 5 pieces, but they haven't come back to me for more, so
Yeah.
I think they're probably, or maybe you already said that. So anyone Still work on that project. Happy to share the information.
So I was reading the connecting rail trails and downtown report that was done a few years ago in Keene, which has 22,000 people. And is an economic hub, it swells to 50,000 people. Sound familiar? Public art is a big draw for trail rider visitors. Which coincides with what we're trying to do from an economic development standpoint, is connect our small businesses and teach them how to attract and those new type of visitors. So it's all coming together. Lots of intersections that we can, I think, leverage similar to this situation.
So if you know of somebody who would like to do a volunteer task like that, or a student who might do it for credit of some type, you know,
Or
We're
resume boosting.
working with UNH students on data for our organization. So I work for the Portsmouth Historical Society. And I can talk to Sabina. She's the one that has created a relationship. So there might be somebody from that group that they're already doing that kind of stuff.
I also have a student in mind,
do you have a student in
Okay.
mind?
high school student.
I
It's a
just
great
wanna clarify-
resume builder.
It is, yeah, that would be
An
perfect.
art history bound, art school
Excellent.
student. so.
Or it doesn't have to be the whole project, but to get a start in the project, because it's it's an archive, so we can keep adding to it.
I just want to clarify Portsmouth Historical Society versus like Historic Portsmouth, because it's Historic New England, and I don't want to get us confused with that. So
Sure.
trying to keep the same language. Because I know we've changed our name a few years ago and it gets confusing.
It does.
Yeah, it used to be Discover Portsmouth
It's
Center.
Portsmouth Historical Society.
Well, it's been Portsmouth Historical Society since 1920.
Right. But we have
But-
Discover Portsmouth is not a name that we associate with anymore. It is
Right.
not in any of our materials or
Right.
anything.
So one more announcement, and then Barbara will put you on. The Cabot Lyford opening tomorrow night. And you all saw the invitation from Emma that, while it is a fundraiser, she would be happy to, I think, waive fees for people from the committee if anybody's interested in attending.
And thank you. Some people have already bought their tickets, so thank you very much.
And there
Sorry.
will be wine and refreshments and lots of great silent and live auction items.
Regret to say I have a.
I'm
tickets
gonna
to a
defer
show.
talking about the new guidelines until after we do the own a judge, but Barbara, would you come up and I don't know if you wanna,
I think Manny's on there.
and Manny's on?
Yeah.
Excellent. Do you wanna be somewhere where you can see him, or do you wanna, maybe,
Oh, that might not be bad.
Why don't,
why don't you come over here?
would it be easier? I could switch.
No, that's okay. I mean, I can
This
see
be a
it.
better
He's
spot
not,
for-
I don't know what happened to him, but he's there.
He is. He's still there. Let me, I
Don't
just
worry
need to
about it.
open my email. Why is-
So, let me just set the stage a little. The Black Heritage Trail has already sought a variance. They needed, because as you all know, we don't have an ordinance that allows specifically murals. So they've already received a variance probably a year ago, right?
Yeah,
Or
well,
more
it's
than
been,
that.
yeah, we had to get an extension of the variance because it was in 2023.
And given the location of the building, they now need to go to the HDC for approval. And because we now are in the line of recommending any public art to the HDC, that's why Barbara and Manny are here tonight to just tell us a little. The way it'll work is we'll hear you talk a little bit about it,
Mhm.
and ask
beautiful.
questions, and then we'll use our criteria to go through and have a discussion about notes that we want to provide to the HDC. That's basically it, which we will try to turn around very quickly, because I think you're going soon, next week, so we will turn it around. very quickly. And
Hopefully.
Barbara, I don't know if do you know everybody? or
I
somebody in your
know,
groups?
I know quite a few people, but not everybody.
So why don't we,
Beth Hartnett.
Mara Woodsflea.
Ellen Feinberg.
Lenny Mullaney.
Alyssa Murphy.
Nancy Pearson.
Robin Lori Meyerkoff. Kate Cook. Jen Meister.
John Clancy, who forgot the name tense.
So Barbara, take it away.
Well, we had, this a bit initially started when, you know, there was an effort to have some murals dedicated to historic female figures. And so they came to us, or we went to them, I forget which, because Ona Judge was on the list. And so Jerry Ann talked to them about it, and we talked about how we have this wonderful blank wall on our building. Well, this, as the person who knows historic preservation, and I'm the one who was, and history of art and history, material culture history, it's sort of been assigned to me to get the historical details right and work with the artist, Manny Ramirez of Positive Street Art in Nashua. And I don't know if any of you have ever looked up the work of Positive Street Art.
Oh, yes.
It is fantastic. And I remember, and Manny, I don't think I've ever told you this, but when we were first talking about it, about doing a mural, there had been a story in I think it was the 603 diversity maybe issue on Manny and Positive Street Art. And I took it into Jerry Ann and I said, we've got to get this guy because his work is just incredible. So the idea behind the mural is that it is not only a beautiful addition, it also is a really important teaching tool. We're at a point in our history where we need those kinds of things. The public sees this building every day. And the plan is for it to be quite large. We got a variance for it to be as much as 28 feet tall and 24 feet wide. But we do need to have a structure that goes onto the building so that it doesn't damage the old brick. So what we have is, and Manny did a project in Nashua, which I left my phone at home. Manny's probably got some pictures of it though. Might be able to share of a mural that they did in the middle of Nashua on the side of an old theater. And if you've seen their work, it's the one with the scene from Gone with the Wind on it. And what it is they're cement-like cladding panels that they actually use them for clapboards on houses now too. And they're done in imitation of brick. And they do a really great job on that, on making it look like a brick, like you've painted on a brick surface.
Oh,
So it sits out from the building. And it has a spacer in it to allow because we have to be sure that the old brick can breathe. And so but it's all contained and it doesn't come out very far. I mean, I went over to look at the one in Nashville because I just couldn't wrap my head around it. And it really doesn't come out too far from the building, which if you know our site, and I kind of put this on the side of the building. If you know our site,
Yes.
you know, this is very close to the neighbors.
yeah.
And I said to the neighbor, they're very, very positive about it.
Oh,
They
that's
love the
great.
idea. And the people who live in the condo in the front have a light on the side of their building that they said, we'd be happy to turn it so it shines on the mural. So, and it's a light that would actually get brighter if anybody walked in front of it. So it's a little bit
Oh, I see what you
startling
mean.
for,
Yeah.
you know, for anybody who gets close. So it's, the plan is for it to be really big, but we may have to make it a little smaller because the weight of the cladding panels. So that's what we're working on.
Okay, so the panels don't cover the entire wall. They are just behind the pieces.
Yeah, I wonder, Manny? Is he right there?
He's on mute.
Yes, I'm here.
Manny, could you show them what the panels look like in at the mural on the side of the old theater?
I'm gonna try and find it in my photo gallery. I'm not sure that I have it available. But if you give me a couple minutes, I'm gonna look through and then I can share my screen
Okay.
if I find it. But I'm sorry if I can't.
It's also it has a special drip edge on the bottom of it. So that if any water comes down over
Mm.
it has a place to go. So it's all designed to
was
deal
wondering
with
about
the water issues. John Wastrom, who is, is a preservation mason, he's working with us on it. He's going back and forth with the fabricator right now to make sure that this is going to have enough space. Because he said we might need to make it come out a little further than you normally would, just so that we've got enough space here to make sure that the wall is okay. One of the things about this wall is it is an unusual wall. It was built as a firewall, probably after the 1813 fire, which started across the street. And we found that we think that house was probably built in spite of everything that it says on the front of it. It was not built in 1749. It was built probably about 1810. And we've had a preservation assessment done on it now, and our consultant figured out all the ways in which that land was divided, because it was all part of the church lands originally. So it was kind of difficult to dissect. But at any rate, in going up into the roof, she could see that there was evidence of charring in the timbers, in the roof timbers. So it seems that they got a little bit of it and decided we're going to do something to keep this from being a problem. So the brick wall was actually added to the building, which contributes to
I
the
see.
to what's important about it.
Yeah.
And so we want to do something that maintains that sense of the brick.
Yeah.
So that you know that
the
it's
brick to show.
Well, it's going to look like it's painted on
Yeah.
the brick. The average visitor is going to think that it's painted.
It's painted on the brick.
Barbara, so I found an album from our Facebook posts that has a lot of those photos that are close up, so I can share that.
Okay.
So you have to stop sharing.
Uh,
Stop share on the red.
The red.
Yeah, you've got to
It
stop.
won't let me. Come on. Oh, over here.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Oh, you mean the red?
Yeah.
Save the little red dot. Thank you. So man, you should be able to share now, I think.
All right, so I think I'm sharing now. Can you guys see my screen?
Yes.
Yes.
All right. So here's me painting the mural and the right where my hand is. And can you guys see that?
Yes.
Yeah.
Right, that long kind of like perimeter bar or I don't know what you would call that, but that's like where where the wall starts. Everything on the top of that is the original building bricks. Anything below that, where it's all just grayed out, is that wall that they built. And then so if I scroll over more, you're able to see how it doesn't here. There's one, it doesn't come off the wall too far out. It's like literally like about 1.5 to 2 inches. Um, and if you see also the bricks on the top they're very close to what the ones on the bottom look like. Except that you can actually like see like weathering and damage from over the years on the top bricks. And then there's another photo from a different angle from the painting process. Here's a little closer. Let me see if I have one that's even closer.
In this case, you painted half on the brick and
Yeah.
half on this.
Yes, correctly.
Why was that? I'm just curious.
So that building was connected to another building, and the second part of the building was torn down to make space for, it was part of of a different property. So they wanted to knock that building down. But because they were joined together, there was water damage. I don't know if it was from both sides, and it damaged like that bottom like 4 or 5 feet of the bricks where they almost like the surface where it was like crumbling. So I would paint it and clear coat it, and then about a year later it would start to just fall apart, like dusting off, literally. So I ended up having to paint that mural over maybe 3 times over on the bottom part, the bottom section, because it was just chipping away within a year's time. And then they decided to just take care of the real problem, which was the bricks themselves, and then lay that section on top of it, so that way we would be painting on a new surface. So after that, I haven't had to come back. The mural still looks intact as it was, and we haven't had any issues with it.
That's helpful. That's a really interesting illustration where you
Mhm.
can see it side by side.
Yeah.
They really, this company, I think they do a nice job of simulating the texture.
Yeah.
Of old brick.
But this
Yeah.
mural not gonna be painted on the brick, not the non-brick structure. It is going to be painted
It's
on
going to be painted on something that's put on
On
top of the
non-brick.
the brick. The whole side of the building is brick.
Is right, yeah, right,
So
okay.
what it's something that simulates the texture of brick.
And that's what it's gonna be painted on. the
Yes.
brick Text, the material that has brick texture but isn't brick.
Yeah, so that
Right, okay.
it blends in with the wall.
Yeah.
But it is masonry. It's not like some kind of full wood or anything like that. It's definitely still masonry. Like Barbara said, I think it's like some kind of um
Cementitious cladding.
yes.
Alyssa,
I
you-
just have a question about how, I know that this doesn't stand off of the building much, but in this case, it's at the base of the building and steps out, which sort of makes sense that that would be a base of a building. But this is going to be,
Yeah, this is going to be more
Some way.
obvious, yeah.
Yeah.
it's
so
gonna
it
be
will
more obvious.
stand off the building in a rectangular shape.
It stands out about this much.
Sure, but I'm wondering how far off the ground it will go, or does?
It's gotta be pretty far off the ground because of the clearance is so small for the driveway next door.
Oh,
And so in talking about it, he said, that I was talking to the neighbor about it the other day, and he said, we're gonna measure the bumper on his wife's truck and make sure that it starts higher than the bumper on the truck.
I just can picture backing out of the driveway.
Yeah.
well, also,
So,
you wouldn't want a car to block it, you know.
no,
No.
no,
Blocks it.
no, and he said the way we park in there, we only park 3 cars. And so we never have one that would be blocking. But they are so incredibly conscious of, how much they want this. They're very artistic family. The mother and the son are both with the Seacoast Rep. And
So
Well, I guess I'm just
going.
trying to sort of say that this is replicating brick, but there will be no question that it is part of the brick.
Yeah.
Because it will be set off
Yeah.
and in a framed situation.
yeah, we'd rather have it just be part of the brick, but we realized that we really couldn't do that.
Yeah.
I
Because as he
wonder-
said, it's such an uneven surface.
Yep.
And also, we were gonna have to do something to preserve the old paint that's
Yeah.
already
Yeah.
on the wall.
So
And so,
my question is,
yeah.
I wonder why replicate the brick texture
Mhm,
in a historic preservation context of not sort of falsifying materials.
mhm.
Why replicate the brick texture?
Why not just have it
Why not
flat?
just
Is
have
that
a
what
flat surface that is
Mhm.
raised off? That's just
Good
Yeah.
a question.
Well, I will say that I've started investigating some other, and I haven't really talked with Manny that much about this, started investigating other possible surfaces just because of the concern about weight.
Hmm.
And so we're looking at other
Uh-huh.
possibilities, that would, maybe it might end up being something that didn't try to replicate the
Uh-huh.
brick. if we decide that that's the better way to go. And those are conversations I'm going to be having a lot in the next couple days.
Yeah.
And I notice in the slides that the paint is spray paint, but is it a special kind of spray paint that's being used?
I don't know, you can ask.
Manny,
Manny.
that's
We
a-
did have we had quite a discussion over the paint, but I.
Yeah, that's a question for you about the type of paint.
I'm sorry, what about the type of paint?
Oh, just the type of paint, the nature of the paint, and probably its durability and its vibrancy and.
Yeah, so as far as, so I mostly use spray paint, but it's usually over a in this case it'll be over a latex or acrylic based masonry paint. So there'll be a base, and then the spray paint will go on top of it, and then the final coat would be the clear coating of it for longevity, and then for to protect the mural against the elements. As far as like actual like touch to the mural, the if somebody like takes a pick to it, something, a sharp object that's metal or something like that is gonna come off, of course. And or like if car brushed against it, obviously that will come off, of course. But as far as like if the mural was left untouched, or if it was touched by people trying to scratch it or anything like that, it wouldn't do anything to the mural. It would be like excessive kind of pressure against the wall that would damage it in any way. Um, but the vibrancy of the paints, they come in full color, and they'll last. The paints by themselves will last anywhere depending on how much sun exposure. If it's like direct sunlight exposed to it, they can last anywhere between 3 and 5 years before they start to fade a little bit. However, that's what the clear coat is for. It completely protects it away from UV lights, and then that extends its life for 5 to 10 years or so. And then you would kind of start to tell when the coat, or at least I can tell, so I can arrange like a survey of the mural within a specific time to look at it again and see if it needs to be if the clear coat needs to be reapplied. Um, but other than that, once as soon as there's a clear coat applied to it, consistently, like every 7 to 10 years or so, the thing would last forever. So.
And is the clear coat also an anti-graffiti?
The clear coat that I usually use is not anti-graffiti. However, there is anti-graffiti coating out there. I've used a few of those. There's one in particular that I don't like to recommend because the it's a very thick coat, and if there was anything like done to the wall, like any actual damage other than like graffiti, you would have to completely buff out that clear coat, which could be very difficult to do, to then like go back and fix the art itself, and then reapply that same thing again. I usually don't recommend it, but there's definitely other anti-graffiti clear coats out there that are not as damaging to the wall, or at least like overprotecting the wall, that I would recommend using. So yeah.
Yeah, I also was wondering about the coating because I thought, well, if moisture got in the bricks or somebody scratched or something and you had to replace the color underneath, not the clear coating so much, but if it damaged the color, if somehow it was chipped off or a car backed into it or what have you, would you have to then remove the coating and go in to repair the spray paint color part of the mural and then reapply the coating, I would presume?
Yes, yes. Usually what happens when there's like damage to the brick below the paint surface, is that it starts to chip away. So the paint will just fall off, because there's nothing that it can, the water damage or whatever damage is under it wouldn't hold anything on top of it. So it'll start to chip off. Um, so yeah.
And so,
Can I
Good.
ask a question?
yes, go
too?
ahead, Ellen.
I'm sorry, I didn't mean to interrupt.
No,
you,
no,
though.
go ahead.
Have you used this kind of surface in places that have weather that's like ours? It gets very cold in the winter and then it can be quite hot in the summer. And so I'm just wondering if environmental factors could also contribute to the, having the surface fail somehow.
Yes, that's a good question. So, majority of the murals that I've painted are here in the Northeast. So, and I've also painted some that get direct sunlight for most of the day. So I've had to deal with working against those issues. So yeah, as far as the only thing that would damage would be the sun if it's not clear coated. The paint itself. It holds up against all types. As soon as it's cured, which takes about a day and a half or so to cure, then it'll withstand any weather. So the one that I showed you guys is from top to bottom. It goes all the way down to the sidewalk. So there's snow that gets stacked up against it, and obviously with salt and all of that. So that would also cause damage to the paint. The salt in the snow that's resting against it for maybe weeks and months at a time. Um, uh, However, I have the mural that was fixed in 21. I haven't seen any issues with that yet. So I think if it does cause, if the salt causes any damage is minimal. But other than that, weather doesn't really affect it.
Good. I wanted to go back to Alyssa's question about how high off the ground we think this will be. Barbara, do you have I know you're.
Well, as I was saying, I
It's
think we're,
car height, sort of.
yeah,
bumper-
it's gonna have to be a large truck bumper height.
Large truck bumper height.
So, probably about 4 feet.
Yeah. So that will, so this.
So it will line up probably with the bottom of the window.
Yeah.
In the picture. Did I pass that around or did I just wave it around?
So it won't be,
You know, it'll be up.
yes.
Did you
Okay.
pass that around?
Yeah, this is, I couldn't do it
Yeah.
in perspective the way it needed to be, and this is a slanted picture. But the idea is that it comes up to here and then. And what looks like problems with the brick is actually old paint.
I have a question about, talking about parking in these lovely neighbors are so enthusiastic and accommodating, but what would happen if they sold their house and someone else moved in? Because my understanding is it's a shared driveway.
Yes,
So is
from
there-
two condos.
Two condos shared.
Two
driveway.
condos share the driveway.
But it's
And
also-
actually one of them has parking somewhere else too, because they can't put 4 cars in there.
Okay, so there's no worry
you-
about,
But you have no jurisdiction over that driveway. Is that, I think.
Yeah,
what
I'm-
he said.
Oh, that's not our driveway.
so it's not like you being the,
Black Heritage Trail.
Black Heritage, thank you. My words, Black Heritage Foundation, you don't have a right of way or,
No, not on that side.
People aren't, I don't think the public's gonna be driving in that driveway.
No.
no,
can't.
no, I'm not
No,
worried about the
no.
public driving. I'm just saying that the neighbors that currently own the driveway or have the rights to the driveway, were they to sell their house to someone else and move on, like what happens if the new owners say,
Well, it's
Well,
not,
we
but
don't want the
they don't
mural.
own the building next
not their
door,
property.
Black
Right.
Heritage Trail does.
Yeah,
Really,
so-
so
truly,
there's no,
I mean, I
no
think they're being
issues.
partners and nice, but really and truly, the neighbors aren't
Okay,
a concern as far as.
Yeah, I
Well,
mean, and they,
My neighbors painted their house bright purple, I really wouldn't have a
and,
say in
and
it.
we have when we got the variance stays with the building.
Yes.
So I don't think that in their case, it would be something that
Yeah.
if you bought the condo, it would be present. You would see that it was.
Yeah. That's the value of having done the variance. Yeah, Kate.
I know I live in a house in the historic district that has another house that abuts the yard very closely. And what I've been told is that they have basically a 1/2 foot variance around the property. And that's that I'm not supposed to put a fence or anything within a 1/2 foot of their building. is
Oh, that's
essentially.
interesting to know.
But we have a very strange lot. And I don't know how it happened, but we have if you look at the plot plan from the city, you'll see that there's an addition on the back of the building that's actually technically on the neighbor's property. And that when they went and surveyed the whole thing and figured it all out when they sold those condos, because in 1970, somebody didn't pay any attention to where the lot line is. But so in fact, they put a fence right on the lot line, which was fine with us.
Do you want to talk to us, well, after Alyssa's question, talk to us a little bit about the image and the nature of the image?
This is sort of an unrelated question, just for interest and visually. Is this really the history through art? The Ruth Blay has a sort of marker on it.
Yeah, that was sort of the idea, but we don't, ours will just have our own Black Heritage Trail mark.
Ah, okay, so it won't have that sort of.
Now, there will be when we got the variance, we also got it to change the signage on the front of the building a little bit, so that there will be a plaque like our other Black Heritage Trail plaques, honoring Ona Judge
Okay.
on the front, so the people will know what it is. And we will take down that 1749 plaque, which is wrong anyway. So we asked to change the signage a little bit, but we don't want to have anything on this. It'll be around the corner.
It'll be around the corner, okay.
Because in a lot of ways, because of the fact that it is somebody's driveway, we
Yes.
really do want to encourage people to stay back on the sidewalk.
Yeah,
It's
a good sense.
So the public, therefore, so you're saying the public should not walk down the driveway, they have to look at it, because I did drive down there and sort of stand on the sidewalk, eyeball it,
And you can
get a sense for it.
Yeah, and it just means that with the Ruth Blay mural, I actually had to get through up by the bushes to be able to read it. And so I realized we don't want people to feel like they're trying to read something that they can only read from the neighbor's property.
Yes.
We wanted to make
That's
it so there's something for them to read on the front of the building so
Yeah.
they could be on the sidewalk.
Yeah. And the way the building is sited, you really will see it from across, you'll see it from across the street. You'll see it
Yeah, I
from
took
distance.
pictures of like going all the way down the street to the corner. And somebody had said, I said, we're hoping that it'll slow down the traffic coming around the corner. Because we have to back out of that driveway, and I'll tell you, people come whipping around there, even though they've got a stop sign. It's like they gun it to come around the corner. So we're hoping this will attract enough attention that people will slow down and say, whoa, what's that?
So maybe talk to us a little bit about the image itself, because one thing I know the HDC we want to respond to is the historic accuracy, because that's a concern when there's anything public art representing history.
Mhm. Well, this is my department,
your
right?
thing,
This is
right.
my department. So we worked with Strawberry Bank, and I've been reaching out to Estrita Schaefer too. She's helped me on a couple. We've got to cut off this. I gotta do this for Manny anyway. We've got to cut this off.
What is
And
this?
I'm gonna show you, and put like a little notch in the sleeve. And then so she won't have this. But otherwise she says it's okay. And the street is a real stickler, so, and we need to make it a little more smooth right here.
She said that people didn't wear sleeves like that.
She said that, well, this came a little later. This type of sleeve is more like, a couple of years later. So we're trying to be very precise to the moment the moment that Ona Judge, let me pass this one around too. The moment that Ona Judge landed in Portsmouth
Okay.
is the idea in 1796.
And how old was she?
20 years old. Well, according to the ad put into the paper asking for her to be brought back to the Washingtons, she was about 20 years old. Showing that they didn't even know how old their people they enslaved were. And that there are a couple things about her that were distinctive. I've told him, Manny, I gotta talk to you more, but we gotta have more freckles. She's referred to as being in the description as being light mulatto. Her mother was also half white. And so she light mulatto with a lot of freckles, much freckled. And that was apparently a distinguishing feature. And probably the reason why she was identified when she came here by the Langdon daughter, probably. And what we've used for the background and what's inspiring the background is the 1795 view of a dock in Philadelphia, actually, which is where she left from. But I don't think Portsmouth looked too much different than at the time. I think it would have been just like this. So if you look at it carefully, you'll see that it has the ships are accurate to that time period, and the clothing of the people along the docks is accurate too. So we just have to tweak a little bit in the costume. Get that right. But Annie and I, we've gone back and forth so many times because he's tried other ships and he said, no, it's too late, or it's too, so we've gone back and forth a lot.
Oh, welcome to Portsmouth, Manny.
Thank you, guys. I was
know-
telling Barbara that I enjoy this kind of work. I like to do research into the projects that I do, and so it's been fun going back and forth with her, trying to figure out the right way to depict Ona. So yeah, I've enjoyed it.
I said to Manny last time I talked to him, I said, you're going to think I'm such a pain in the neck. But he said, no, I love learning. So
But these are the exact questions that the HDC
Yeah.
will get hung up on.
Yeah,
So
so that's, we want to respond.
That's the answer.
But,
Yeah.
but this is, this is such an important story. And I think everybody here obviously knows the story of Ona Judge.
Mhm.
When I'm in groups of people, that is not always the case.
Yeah.
So we feel it's such an important story for New Hampshire, for for Black history. That
Especially
this
for
is real,
Portsmouth.
yeah, and especially for Portsmouth. I mean, this is one of those stories of national significance where all those big players that everybody's heard of were involved. In the end, it's a story that, ends with a woman living in poverty. So I don't want to give a lot of credit to the white inhabitants who didn't sell her out, but it is a tribute to the fact that I think people in Portsmouth stood up to the president of the United States when he was still president. And
Oh, imagine that.
well, I think it's an inspiring story for today. Glad you caught the reference. But now here's another thing. And when he died, they stopped looking for him.
When
Even-
he died.
When he died, even though she was enslaved by Martha, it was after he died.
Yeah, that's
They
right.
really
Who was he?
stopped.
Which
George
George?
Washington.
Well, what's also interesting to me is the location of this is visible. The Langdon House will be visible
Yeah,
from the location.
yeah,
where
it's right around the
she
corner.
was, Yeah. That's good.
And we convinced one of our staff members to be the model. And then we said to Manny, you got to make it look a little less like her. She's a little nervous about being that big on the side of the building. But thanks to Daria Steele too for being our model.
So other questions before we look at what our criteria. You look like you have a question.
No, I don't have a question. I'm really impressed that you looked at the types of, the types of ships, that's easy. But
Well-
the types of sleeves that a woman might have worn, that's really.
I'm a museum person and taught material culture and worked, oh no,
Yeah,
this is like.
If you're not going to get it right, there's no hope
There's-
for
yeah.
anybody.
But I couldn't do it without Estrida too, because she's
no,
really,
Estrida.
she's, you know, but I was so pleased that she said most of it was fine. Cause
So
we had to play with the
one other thing
costume.
we should do is, Manny, we should tell us a little bit about yourself and your work and positive art, because that's something we'd want to include
You
as well.
should do a slideshow, Manny, of some of your
Yeah,
stuff.
I haven't seen positive art. I can't, street
Positive
art.
street art.
So
Positive
tell us a
street
little
art. I
bit
wanna look
about,
it up.
you know, your background, how long you've been doing this, your training, that sort of thing. Brag a little.
I'm not usually the best usually for bragging. I'm sorry. But I could definitely tell you about what we do and how we got started. So Cecilia and I are the founders of Positive Street Art. We started Positive Street Art over 13 years ago here in Nashua. Because we, as far as artists, we didn't see anywhere where we can fit culturally, and then the type of art that we wanted to bring to the community. And also, we found a lack of visual public art. And we wanted to make a change in that direction. So we sought out to paint a mural, and then um, that kind of like led to people mentioning that we should probably start a nonprofit, and one thing led to another. A ton of work later of trying to figure out what a nonprofit is. um, uh, and then 13 years later, we've done possibly almost or over 100 murals by now. And in our area, we've gone to Honduras, and we're able to kind of like inspire a Honduran version of positive street art over there, kind of like giving artists and local leaders the tools to be able to start their own organization and kind of get together and figure out how to bring public art to their town. um, and we now have our own space that we can do some programming, and we do dance workshops, we do art workshops, we do events of all different types. We kind of lean a little bit towards the hip hop community, and we take a lot of our uh, not experience, inspiration from hip hop. And then originally the hip hop had four pillars, which was breakdancing, DJing, MCing, and graffiti. And then those things basically are things that like we kind of naturally grew up with. So we kind of like draw from that from time to time, and try to bring that sort of like raw culture to our community. And it's been amazing. It's been beautiful trying to I mean, seeing how the community has accepted us and welcomed us and worked with us, and we've been able to collaborate with a lot of other nonprofits and a lot of other municipalities, and um, anyone who's and individuals and businesses who've wanted to collaborate with us. We've been very open to it and have been able to do a lot of work since then. We actually have work in Manchester, Nashua, um, uh, Lancaster, uh, Concord, um, and Salem, and Hudson as well. So we have quite a bit of artwork. As far as like training or any or like our styles or um, that sort of thing. We're mostly self-taught. We've taken a lot of classes, but not like full like school degree type of things. But we've done a lot of research and training on our own ever since we decided we wanted to do this and took it very seriously. Um, and then I mostly work with spray paint, and then all sorts of different acrylics. And my favorite surface to paint on is walls. So that's why we've kind of like expanded and done so much work, public artwork. And I think the reason why is that we love the idea of having public art be accessible to everyone. That's really the main reason why we wanted to do this since the beginning.
You should show, can you show a couple things? He's still able to show?
Let's see.
I love the one of the little girl in the superhero outfit.
Yeah, I think I can just share.
Guy who's on your building, right? You know that.
So I'll share. Let me share again. And then I'm gonna go on our website because we have some of our works in there. Let's see.
And can you tell them about Cecilia's fellowship now? Her.
Cecilia's actually here with me, so she can tell you herself, so you can get it right from the horse's mouth. Um, but let me just while she talks, I'm gonna share our website. That way you guys have a visual of other stuff that we've done. Where's the share button? There it is. Screen. Start broadcast. All right. So this is a mural that we did at the Police Athletic League in Nashua, New Hampshire. And then this one right here is at Martha's Exchange. This one is a different side of the same mural at the Athletic League in Nashua. And it goes back. Let me see if I can go to our murals. Explore murals. So these are some of the work that we've done. So this one right here was our very first mural. This is kind of what gave the inspiration for what we wanted to do moving forward with our work. And this was at Dunkin' Donuts in Nashua. This is the one that you guys were seeing with the little perimeter wall in the bottom. And this is a temporary mural that we did for Surf here in Nashua. There was a big building being developed right next to it, so they put this perimeter wall to kind of block their give like a privacy wall for their patrons. And then it was just basically a blank plywood wall, and they wanted me to paint something on there, so that's what I ended up painting for them. This is actually in Manchester, at the California Burritos. And yeah, this is some of our events that we've had in the past. This was Live Art Battle. We also painted the barriers here in Nashua. We did, I think, something like 70 or 80 barriers in the course of a week and a half. This is a picture of me painting that mural at PAL. More barriers. But yeah, we have painted quite a bit of pieces. This is actually one of the murals from Honduras. Yeah. I'll put Cecilia on so that she can tell you a little more about herself.
Do you have the screen on? Can everybody see me?
No,
They can't. How
no,
do I?
keep sharing. You can just
Oh,
stop
stop
sharing.
share. Okay. Camera on. Oh, hello, everyone. Hi, I'm Cecilia. And so I'm the executive director of the organization. And like Mandy says, we've been around since 2012. I did want to just share a couple of things that I just scooped up while he was showing you those pictures. I'm sorry that my dog is squeaking in the background. Sorry about that. If you are local to Manchester or Nashua, the Chamber of Commerce's from both of those cities do a publication. And one of the newest murals that we just did is on the cover of the Manchester one. This is in Center City, Manchester, and it's really beautiful mural that really shows the unity of the community in the inner city there. And then we're also highlighted, a bunch of our murals are highlighted in the N magazine too. So I think they're also available digitally if you go to the Manchester or the Nashua Chamber's website. But back to your question about the leadership, I was accepted into a leadership program last year to start in December. It's called the National national leadership or what is it called? It's now it's all backwards for me because there's so many acronyms now, but it's the Leaderships of Color Fellowship. And it's a national cohort for arts leaders of color that either run organizations or are artists or work at the city level to really use arts as an economic driver to help with arts are also healing, so healing in the arts, educational stuff, and basically all of these leaders. So there's over 50 of us in the cohort, and we get together once a month and we talk about different topics, and mostly just kind of do a check-in and start to talk about like collaboration. And right now, the biggest thing, and not just with arts organizations, but in general, right now, we're all just trying to figure out what we're going to do with, funding being cut. And, just things are changing a lot. And we're, as an organization, we're trying to figure out what that's going to look like for us. So, so it's a really good fellowship, and it's a really tough program to get into, and I am the one that was chosen for New Hampshire.
So, thank you both. I think I'm watching our time. We should look at our criteria and just see if there are any questions, other questions that it sparks for us, or anything else that we want to capture in a memo to the HDC. And we have in the PowerPoint, we have that one slide about criteria that should be in the first one, I think.
so.
Let's see.
Okay.
And Jen and Mara usually sort of take us through those because it helps. It helps us, Barbara, to structure what we give to the HDC.
But Chris very handily provided a very economical and clearly stated summary of what the criteria were on one single page. So
Take it away. Do you want to see if there are any particular comments?
yeah,
I think we've covered a lot of it.
yeah, and I don't want to, I'm Jen, I'm just
Here we
sort of
go.
jumping right in because I'm scribing away,
Go for it.
so.
Do it this time, I'll take it next.
Right. So, okay, so we talk usually about these four-ish areas and I guess, yeah, there they are. So I'll just mention them and see what people have to say and et cetera. Okay, so we like to talk about the site in terms of, the work's appropriateness, the context, accessibility, safety, traffic patterns, the physicality of the site and how the work interacts with that. So, anybody want to?
I think we've discussed
comments
that.
here?
Yeah.
I think we've discussed that pretty thoroughly.
In all in a positive way. I mean, I think that Barbara, you and the organization have taken what could be considered a really challenging location and found all the positive ways to, highlight the piece, work with your neighbors, and really make it not only accessible, but like, oh, and hey, by the way, there's the house.
Yeah.
That's part of the story. Like,
Mhm.
I think that's an amazing
Yeah.
accomplishment.
I think that actually, because of thinking of things that HDC is concerned about, the connection to the neighbors and the respect for the height and all of that are things that we need to spell out, because those are usually concerns. I remember the Ruth Blay, people were concerned about what will people think of having such a tall, huge picture of a
That was
woman.
one person.
As you know.
A platoon of giant women, I think
Right,
was
exactly.
the word.
Should we break out our t-shirts?
Yeah, that's good.
But I think what Nancy said is really right on in terms of that. And obviously it's accessible. The traffic is kind of an interesting thing, in terms of there is a stop sign there, and I think we do want to point that out. So it's not like, people are just gonna go right through or go right through and stop suddenly. They've got to stop. So
Yeah.
that's an important part of how it's cited.
And they do, you can see it from the corner too.
Right.
As you're turning, you see it. I went
Yeah.
out there and took all these pictures to be able to determine.
Would it be fair to say that it's more visible if you're coming towards the house? Because if you're going down the street the other way and
You're
the
not gonna
house is
see
on
it
the
right
right.
away.
you're
It's
not
gonna
see it.
surprise you.
Yeah.
If you're walking down the
Yeah.
street,
Walking.
surprise you.
it will surprise you.
Yeah.
If
It's
you're,
a total walkable mural. It's right there.
Yes.
I walk by it almost every single day, that space, and I don't know what the number of people that walk by that spot, but it's a lot.
That's good.
But, and I agree that that the fact that you all have looked at the site so carefully is really important. I mean, in terms of like taking, I mean, we didn't see them, but I believe you taking the successive
pictures,
shots.
they show you.
Yeah,
show-
yeah,
see
because
what-
I walk by there a lot too, and I could see that there would be a lot of opportunities to see it in different, and plus the fact the height of the neighbors' cars, that's also being
Yeah.
taken into account. So, yeah, but Chris, assuming you're writing it up.
Yeah, I'm
That's right.
taking notes.
Yeah, okay, so I mean, does Kate?
I just was gonna add that the height, having to raise it for the cars actually might increase visibility a
Yeah.
little bit.
Yes,
Mhm.
yeah.
So.
Yeah.
Because you don't want important parts of it to be behind.
That's
people's
right.
Cars.
But it is really huge.
Yeah, it's huge, so.
Are you concerned that people might feel that it's takes up too much visual space? I mean, we're talking
people
about,
are you
we're
talking
talking
about?
about it as a positive,
Right.
but there will be people who are who maybe feel that it is just too big.
Do you think they're gonna come to the HTC meeting? Because that's kind of like what we're talking about, is to get.
Well,
this passed
I
through
think it's a
HTC.
good question, Ellen, because of what people may not be used to seeing.
Right.
Right.
Yeah, I mean, it's certainly for this type of art. There are many very large examples. I mean, you were talking about going to Boston,
Yeah.
and there are huge walls
Right.
that are covered with some pretty amazing murals.
I think because it's not something that the viewer is able to get up close to and stand in front of, I think the size is important because
That's a great point.
otherwise you wouldn't be able to see those details in the sleeves and the
That's-
freckles on her face,
Yeah.
So I would say that if size is a concern, it's like, well, go try to read a sign on a building from across the street or whatever is on the building and see how well you can see. Like, I think
Point.
it has to be that big because you just can't get right in front of it.
Well, and I did say to the neighbors when we were first talking about it, I said, so you're not going to have a problem with a woman staring into your house? And they said, no, they didn't. No, they were really excited. They still are really excited about it. He actually called me up and he said, what's going on? Where are you at in this? And I said, oh, did you get something? And he said, no, I ran across it and wondered what was going on. So,
I just have a really quick question. How long will it take Manny to do this installation?
Manny, you're still there. You can answer that question.
3 to 4 weeks, I would say. Yeah.
This might be nice to have.
And the neighbors know that too.
students Kind of walk by and watch
Sure.
the process, or anybody really.
Yeah, I think we really want to
there that
advertise the
long.
process.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Um,
that's nice.
And it's being done off a lift that can be parked on our side at night.
Okay.
So,
I think this scale is a really interesting thing for us to think about because it's also, it's a mural. It's part of the genre, right? It isn't a
Not a
decorative
painting.
painting added to the side. And I think that has to sort of come through.
mhm.
Because there are some pieces that are smaller that people are, public art pieces that are smaller, but this is a mural, even though it looks like a lovely painting in a photograph. And that's one of the things about it that I think is, the play of those two is kind of interesting.
Mhm.
But it also is true that when you think of places where there are very large, expansive murals, they usually are spaces with buildings that are bigger and
It's true.
more expansive than we have in Portsmouth, and especially over there,
Yeah.
which
it-
is very still kind of very human scale.
It is unique in that, a human scale. Yeah, Alyssa.
I think the aesthetics of this bring a human scale, and many other murals are bright and
Yes.
like sort of explosive in their visual, so you're talking about taking up space, and the colors and the just aesthetics of the whole thing are very quiet and appropriate to the color scheme of the houses in the
Mhm.
area, and
Yeah.
I appreciate that. I
Mhm.
think that will balance the
Yeah, I
large
think that's a good point,
Yeah.
Very
that
good
though it
point.
is bigger than some,
Yeah,
that it's very, the image itself is quite gentle.
yeah.
Is it that much bigger than the Ruth Blay?
I think it's bigger than the Ruth.
Yeah,
Blay.
it seems like it's more expansive than.
It's
Ruth-
more
Ruth Blay
expansive.
is
Yeah.
tall
Is
and.
or narrow?
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, there's a lot of stuff in the Ruth Blay, but the one image
Yeah.
is,
Yeah.
if you took all the, when we were talking about it as signage with the Board of Adjustment, they were thinking of that as the whole sign, but yeah, there, the image is only one
Yeah.
part.
Okay. So, I think we've discussed the site, and then the other issue that we often talk about is feasibility, technical feasibility, schedule, durability, maintenance. We've covered that.
Yeah.
But I have a question about the maintenance though, and that is that somehow written, is question of the maintenance written into what the Black Heritage, I
Well,
mean,
it's ours, we own it.
Yeah,
so
okay,
We
but
own the
so-
problem, yes.
yeah,
But
and
you've-
some
you've
budget
agreed
for
with-
the
yeah.
maintenance, is that
Yeah.
written into the, whatever it is that
Whatever
you're,
agreement
yeah, what, right, agreement.
With the artist.
with.
Oh, with the
artist.
artist, yes, that we would work with him on the maintenance. of it,
Yeah.
yes.
Yeah, because that's, I think that's an,
It is
Okay.
important.
Yeah.
And that he has experience, he's taught in doing that and anticipates doing that.
right,
you know.
right, so that would be an important
Yeah.
point. Okay, and then we talk about the aesthetics. Cohesion of elements, ideas, clarity, purpose, use of materials, expressiveness, compatible with the surroundings, historical accuracy, say check plus
check,
plus
check.
plus.
Yes.
But
And
any other comments?
I just
about-
want to say on top of everything else, it is, and this isn't always the case with public art. It's beautiful.
Yeah.
I mean, it's a beautiful piece.
Yeah,
And not all public art needs to be beautiful, but
Right.
I think this is, and I just wanted to acknowledge that.
Yeah.
yeah.
It's a great point, Nancy.
Are you allowed to say that when you write to the?
Sure. Well, no, I think
And besides, it's
kind
beautiful.
It kind of speaks to what Alyssa was saying, you
Yeah.
know, I mean,
Yeah.
not all of our murals in the history of Portsmouth were created to be beautiful
Right.
and aesthetically
It has to.
pleasing.
Yeah, like the one
Yeah.
across the street.
I mean, the
kind of.
purpose, so that the aesthetics really match the purpose and the thinking behind, why are we celebrating this? I mean, it's very, in that sense, it feels very coherent. It's what Alyssa was.
And it was important to us that she was strong, that you got a sense of a strong
Oh, yeah.
presence. And that I don't think I went on to say that because she was Martha Washington's seamstress, another thing that's in that same notice mentions that she had lots of good clothes.
Interesting.
And so we chose to give her a plain but stylish dress.
Mhm.
Like the one, like the ones that she was probably making for.
I think that
family.
that's really, really such a great sophisticated level of accuracy and expressiveness of who she was.
Mm.
Yeah.
You know, and she's quietly gentle, but strong.
Yeah.
That's a good thing. Okay, and the artist's experience, we just, I don't think, we heard a lot about
Yeah.
that, so I think you should have no trouble.
Great.
And when does this come before the HDC? Did you have a date?
Next week,
Oh, next week. Okay,
Would
great.
be,
unless they decide, I mean,
Bump you.
hopefully it'll come. I mean, we're in there for next week.
you're in the queue.
We're in the queue for next week, so we'll see.
Excellent.
So, so the process would be, I've taken notes, I'll write it up. Sean will share it with everybody in case there are any things people want to add. And then we will send it to you, Barbara, at the same time we send it to Peter Britz
Okay.
for, HDC. So hopefully by the end of the week, you would.
Barbara, are any of your abutters planning to come and support?
Well, I really encouraged, you know, I have to talk to him again and say, you know, I said before, I really hope you can come. And
Yeah.
he said, well, I'm not sure. And, you know, my wife and son are in rehearsals all the time but I might be able to come. So I'm
Or send a
hoping
letter.
he'll come.
Yeah, letter.
Yeah, I'll get him to send
Carries
a
a lot
letter
of
at
weight.
least. Yeah.
They do take that into consideration.
Mhm. Well, and with something like this, I mean, I think it's really important that they're so enthusiastic about it.
Exactly.
The owner of one of the condos is not here very much. So John Veer he said, I've been delegated to speak for him. That he's very enthusiastic about it too, but he doesn't, he has like, I don't know, four houses or something and goes from one to the next.
So thank you, Barbara. And Cecilia and Manny, thank you for joining us.
I just
Thank
have,
you.
can I say one thing to Manny and Cecilia?
Yeah.
If when you're finished, presuming this all goes forward and when you're finished, if there's a dedication ceremony, will you be playing hip hop music? And you said you're heavily influenced by hip hop
dance.
music, some dancers, that would be really cool.
We'll have to
I'm-
see Jerry Ann, see what we can come up.
I think it'll be a conversation with the Black Heritage Trail of New Hampshire to see what's fitting for the event. And we're open to giving suggestions and taking suggestions for that.
You've
sure.
got dance now too, so we'll
Yeah, we would love it.
talk to you about that as well.
All right. Thank you.
Thank you.
All right, thanks. Bye,
Bye.
guys.
Thank you, guys. Appreciate you. Thank you.
Thank you.
So, two things hopefully we can do before we go. The final draft guidelines for the new trust, that
Oh,
should be
so
on the
I'm
first one
done.
as well.
Yes, thank you.
welcome.
Barbara.
Thank you so much.
Oh, okay, so you'll keep these two.
Okay,
Do you want to
sure.
keep those two? I mean, that's just,
That'd be great.
no, Manny could probably figure out how to do it in perspective, but I just had a quick. You got it. Stick it out.
So, if you remember, we had the discussion last time about, with some suggestions on the guidelines, and these were sent out to us. And subsequently, Ernie has met with Christine Fries to go over the guidelines, and we just want to formalize that with a vote of this committee, that we agree with this criteria for, selecting projects. And Ernie, I don't know if you want to talk
Yeah,
to
why don't you
any,
take that?
anything
I mean, I just
about
had
it.
Scribble on it. I can print it out again.
So I didn't actually meet with Christine. We just emailed back and forth. But at first she was a little bit concerned about, changing the wording from what was in the trust, but I explained that we just needed to add a little more detail, and I explained our reasoning. So this was just, something, that we could use when we're reviewing proposals.
So I think what we want to do, maybe we can take that as a motion from you, Ernie, that this committee endorses these criteria. And then we would vote on, and then we'll share them with the trustees of trust funds who, who are the ultimate ones who review anything coming out of grants for the trust. So if we take Ernie as a motion to approve, we could have a second.
I'll second.
And
Who seconded?
Lenny,
Thank you.
are there any questions? Do people have any questions? I think we just cleaned up.
Do we need to approve the guidelines that I also drafted, or do you think that's not necessary?
Necessary, because that really just summarizes the trust.
Okay, yes, it does.
So all in favor of using these
Aye.
criteria? Okay, great. So we will share that then with the trustees, and as we talked last time, we'll do a ramp up when school starts, because we think, or, you know, before school, but this is something that art teachers, nonprofits that work with, young people and work with arts, and we'll try to do a little bit of a promotion for a month or two before we, call for proposals. And then I have a great PowerPoint for you on the Hanover Garage, but we don't have time to do that. Ernie, talk about street life, because this is something everybody should know about.
So we're very, very excited, and it hasn't been publicly announced yet, but the chamber is planning to hold this year's Street Life in the Bohenko Gateway Park. And we met with Ben Van Camp, and he's just very gracious about it. He wants this to be an opportunity for us to promote public art in the city. And also an opportunity, we have a subcommittee that's expressed interest in doing some fundraising for an additional piece. So that, I don't know if, you know, so Street Life, I think everybody's familiar with Street Life, right? It's their annual event. They expect 350 to 450 people. And they're going to have a long table that will start at Endeavor and go through the park. And then they're planning to do desserts in the pavilion. So it's just a wonderful opportunity, I think, for us to promote public art in general in the city. There won't really be a program because it's more of a social event. But we're kind of, you know, brainstorming how we can work with the chamber to incorporate the whole public art, you know, awareness in it. They talked about wanting to do some type of collaborative project that night, like have people, you know, participate and create something. Just they're open to, you know, of course, it's the chamber's event, but they're open to ideas. And we met with Ben, and we brainstormed a lot of ideas. And if anybody would, you know, like to be part, you know, this fundraising group that we're getting together, we'd love having more people involved in that. And our plan is to meet in mid-April and talk about a strategy for that and come up with a plan.
Is there a date for the street?
It's
Yeah.
August 13th.
August 13th, and then the rain date is August 14th. And it's 5 to 8:30.
And anybody in the public can come, or do they buy tickets?
Yes,
Yeah,
yeah, to buy tickets.
You can buy a ticket.
Yeah, yes.
You can't, I think the chamber has a few, like, if you can't afford to go, you can go through that.
Mhm.
And historically is the celebration, it's recognizing the business community. It's not,
It's not a pro Portsmouth.
no,
No.
no, it's, yeah. And I think that's the opportunity to put public art in front of the business community specifically, in
Right.
addition to all the citizens here who
So,
love art.
For example, the History Through Art was an initiative to get private property owners to
Yes.
showcase murals of important women in history. And we got a lot of interest, but really nobody pulled the trigger except we've got two.
Right now.
One on Court Street with Ruth Blay and one at the Liars Bench with
Sarah Orangewood.
yes.
And they're having an unveiling and a poetry reading in April for that.
Yeah.
Oh, great.
Both of those were driven by Terrence and really happened through his personal relationships. So you know, that's a great connection. My question about it is, are they still, if they're not doing a program, are they still doing their awards?
They've started to break that into a separate ceremony because it just took too much to squeeze
Nobody's
into.
listening.
Right.
Yeah.
Nobody's.
Yeah, Ben didn't mention
They're
that.
all put
He
out.
just, I think, was letting us know that it wasn't going to be the opportunity to do, you know, a big presentation.
Yeah.
And you know, he said they might be announcing something. And, you know, so there's an opportunity for maybe a short, but, you know, you have 400 people spread out. So it's just kind of challenging, you know, to do anything detailed.
I think, Ernie, when we had talked earlier with Ben, I think we had talked about, opportunities to have photographs and
Oh,
little
yeah.
bits of information about the art on tables.
Yes.
And part of centerpieces,
Yep.
maybe trivia about public art,
Yep.
just available. And so it's not like a program, but there's,
They did with the 400
Yeah.
streetlights. On every
Yep.
table, there were little cards and information about
Yeah.
the 400 anniversary.
And it'll be a chance to connect the walking tour.
exactly.
So, yeah, they're into all that, but what we want to do is leverage it to raise money to do a next sculpture for the park. And Ben is cooperative with that. As Ernie said, we're not quite sure how we want to leverage that yet, but we don't want to, because it's a big fundraising event for them.
Them.
So we don't want to walk over that, but we want to figure out how to do that together. And
Maybe by showcasing some of the sponsors of art that are in the inventory even, because you had suggested we added that
Yes.
at the bottom, so we could
Yeah.
say some of the businesses that have
Mhm.
stepped up
You're
already.
here. Right. I think that's a good idea.
Yep.
And the fact that there's publicity for it now is very good. Yeah.
And they don't actually do, what Ben said to us is they don't actually do fundraising at the event. Their
No.
fundraising is more getting the sponsors in advance. And so, you know, some of the things we were talking about was, you know, we're maybe trying to get some people on board, some funders for this additional piece of art before the event. And then just spread the word and try to attract more.
So that's
Great.
cool, exciting and a great opportunity. And we should have the Pierce Island piece by then. And maybe even know what we might be doing for the garage.
A check was mailed this week.
But, because they've met the next milestone.
Right.
They're in fabricating.
They've
and
got
moving around.
fabrication plans and
Exciting.
We don't have to.
they're gonna be installing next month?
no,
No, but
I don't think so.
I think it's feasible that it will be done by August. Sure.
It's feasible.
Ask if there was an estimated unveiling of that
Not yet.
date.
And let me mention one other thing. Through trying to, if you remember, we were noodling at the last meeting about insurance on public art. And I asked Jordana Pomeroy, who's the new director at the Courier, about it because she was in charge of public art at a university. And it happens that her aunt is one of the like premier people in public art. And she's 96 and she's just written a memoir.
Wow.
She's working on her second book. Yeah, or not second book, but another book. And Jordana thought she would probably be really interested if we wanted to do a Zoom with her at some point. And this is an interesting book. This is a second copy I have. So if anybody's interested in looking at it, she was a broker for public art. So what she did was to work with municipalities and artists and brokered a lot of the really famous art that you know. And this book is filled with a lot of the work. But it's also very practical in terms of little essays on controversy, little essays on selection. She rarely did competitions because she was more a go-between, somebody who a gallery would come to or a municipality would come to commission from a small group. So Jordana said she would love that Joyce would probably love to do that, to be able to talk about something. So
Where does she live? Where does
she lives in the building across from MoMA. They've had an apartment there.
of this woman? You can't even make this up.
I know.
Poor thing.
So I don't know if we want to do it at a regular meeting or maybe set up a time when we might just have an informal chat with her,
Sounds
but
great.
it,
Yeah.
I think it would be really interesting to get advice from.
Yeah. I'd really love to look at the book, but I can't right now
Okay,
because I'm heading out for the next.
but if anybody
adventure.
else would like to, I'm happy to do that.
You can get it. I'm gonna get on your list.
So next time, let's talk about exhibits, the ideas for this curating. And the garage.
Cool.
So,
Hope to see you guys tomorrow night.
yes, and tomorrow night.
No, I sadly can't be there.
Criteria for public art next
Oh,
time.
yes.
Yeah.
Temporary,
art.
right?
Temporary, I'm sorry.
Yeah, do you want to, Sean, do you want to take these back? Or do you want to give them to anyone who doesn't? Does everyone
The,
have one?
the Lyford exhibition.
I'll
is
get
gonna
one.
be-
These are these are the
I can't.
temporary criteria.
Oh, you guys did more work on that.
Yes.
Well, we just, remember we had
I
a
won't be there.
really good discussion.
kind of went
So we just
over
made
it,
sure
yeah,
we got the
something else.
language right from what
Okay,
our
good.
discussion was.
Yeah, yeah.
Oh, thanks.
Well, and
All right, so a motion to adjourn,
Motion to adjourn.
Beth,
Second.
and a second, Alyssa.
Seconded.
I was gonna
I
say-
have one of these. Oh, we're supposed to give them back? It's like,
We said we'd talk about it next time.
Good meeting.
All set?
Excellent.
All set.
yeah, the New Hampshire Art Association.
I know.